Where does entrepreneurship actually start? I've been thinking about this question a lot lately, and every time I come back to the same answer. It's not about money or even a co-founder. It actually starts with how you think. This is why we've built AB Innovation Lab. ABIL is a space for high school students like you who want to learn how to think like builders, how to develop real entrepreneurship and innovation skills, and how to take something that exists only in your mind and make it real. Every single conversation that we have in this series is designed with you in mind. Today's guest is Supritha Rao. She's a computer science teacher at a high school in the UK. Every day she walks into a room full of teenagers and she teaches them to think like innovators. I admit she's not really what you'd expect for a series like this. I mean, she hasn't raised around, no valuation, but what she has done is coached 5 girls through a national entrepreneurship challenge. And those 5 girls won £25,000. They started in a classroom, just like you. Okay, with that, I would like to welcome Miss Rao to the show.
Hi, Sunidhi. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. Thank you for being here. So before we get into this interview, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're building. AB Innovation Lab is all about giving high school students the entrepreneurship and innovation skills that most schools don't teach us. And our whole belief is that a lot of the solutions to a lot of the world's problems are already here sitting in the minds of young people who just don't have a seat at the table yet. And your story here seems to align really well with our goals as an organization. So with that being said, can we get started with this?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So for our first question, you coached a group of girls through the Longitude Explorer Prize in the UK, and their product won £25,000. You actually wrote about this experience in The Independent. Can you take us back to the beginning of this challenge? What was their idea and where did it come from?
Yeah, sure. So we got this opportunity at school, and I decided to lead 5 girls in this Longitude Explorer Prize journey. And basically, the competition gave us a very broad theme. Uh, it was how do you make the world a better place to live in? So the girls explored several directions. They looked at aging population, climate change, healthy living, transport, uh, and eventually they landed on dementia care. So it was basically an app that they designed for a smartwatch that can
Wow.
be used by dementia patients as well as their carers so that they can alleviate all their troubles and support them when they need it the most. So it would help patients suffering with dementia to live independently and probably with a carer 24 by 7 with them. So that
Wow.
was the entire idea. So the features on the smartwatch would be app would include what really grounded this idea was that one of the teammates had a very personal experience with a very close family member, I think her grandparent,
Oh,
suffering
okay.
with dementia, and she
Wow.
she has seen firsthand the kind of issues that the carers, which in this case were her parents, had to face helping her grandparent out. So she decided that she should take this opportunity to kind of innovate some kind of solution for similar patients, similar care situations, and that's how they came up with the idea.
Yeah, that's really touching and that's super cool how they were able to design something like that. And it's really cool that one of them was able to design something for a family member. And I think
Absolutely.
that right there is very important to hear because In my opinion, and I'm sure you agree, like the number one part of building a product is identifying a real problem. And clearly that problem existed for one of the girls that you coached. It was through her grandma that she was able to understand, the pain about that issue and want to solve that problem.
That is
I
so
think,
true. That is so true. I mean, it's only when you know more about the problem and you are involved or you deeply care about what you're building, will you
Mhm.
make a good product. So it's very important to have passion about the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, and I think a personal connection is actually what will make your product or your solution very specific and very competitive,
Yeah,
like it's kind of where you start. And you already understand the problem probably better than a majority of the other people because you experience it or someone close to you experiences it on the daily.
absolutely. Well said, yeah.
So having this idea is one thing, but taking it to the next level and actually executing it is very different.
Mhm.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that? What was one of the hardest moments during this challenge, and where do you think was the tipping point where it could have all just fallen apart?
Well, I think the biggest challenge was the pandemic because
Oh, yeah.
this project had started. We'd started off on this journey. We had multiple face-to-face sessions and meetings, and then there was lockdown. So
Oh,
obviously the girls went from meeting in school on a regular basis to meeting offline, which is
yeah, I can imagine
sorry,
that's hard.
online. I say online, yeah. From offline, they went online. And it was a
Hmm.
new way of working, which was kind of new, I think, to the whole world.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that you had meetings, but collaborating online, using the right kind of methods to be efficient, as well as cope with the other aspects of general life during the pandemic was, I think, the biggest challenge. And I thought the girls were really resilient throughout that journey. And they just held up to one thing that they were very passionate about. One, winning the prize, of course, which was big
Yeah.
money, £25,000. And the second thing, they were very interested in solving the problem. So keeping the team motivated and throughout this challenge was probably one of the key things as a leader that I had to do, as a
Hmm.
mentor that I had to do. So we tried to adopt a divide and conquer method. So
Hmm.
we divided roles and responsibilities among the five girls so that they took accountability. They had freedom, creative freedom of how they can dig deeper into the
Yeah.
problem solution, and they focused in their subgroup basically. So that worked, and we would have regular meetings online, of course,
Yeah.
and they would discuss what they worked on and how they can actually bring the solution together. So they used to brainstorm ideas online and then come up with solutions individually and put them back together. So basically a divide and conquer methodology.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool way that they were able to work around the pandemic, which is probably, very crazy. It was definitely a crazy
I'm sure it
time.
was nerve-wracking in a way
Yeah.
because you're seeing a lot of stuff going on in the world, and maybe your family is affected by it. Maybe you're
Hmm.
isolating, very uncertain times, but yet the goal was to make this happen,
Yeah.
and that I think that's what drove the whole team.
Yeah, and I think particularly with that, just being able to take smaller steps towards it, I'm sure like
Yeah,
along the way it must have been hard to realize like, is this going to amount to anything, right? Because
yeah,
you can't tangibly see that progress every day, but I think with like speaking as a high schooler, I mean, it's kind of from the get-go, you want to assume that it's going to be very quick to come together and that, it's just smooth sailing, but really it's not. And I think that your story is a perfect example of that, but it's okay to take time to build something real like this. Like it's all about those baby steps. And I think it's really a uh, a mindset shift that
Shift. Yeah.
actually like helps with that process. So like letting go of that notion that you had to make massive progress, dividing the work up, like you mentioned, I think
Yeah.
that's definitely a key strategy.
And I think flexibility is something that's very key in this. People in the team will have different ideas. Being ready to change the way you think about the idea, change the way you want to work towards it, should also be considered in a
Yeah.
in a team effort. So flexibility, I think, is a very key thing, or a very key value that you need to ensure that every team member comes to the table with.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
And I think, especially with things like entrepreneurship and innovation, it's never a linear path. It's
Mm.
always kind of all around the place. So
Yes.
having that flexibility is definitely very important.
Yeah,
And
true.
really, all of that effort that those five girls put in eventually led to one moment that they're never going to forget, you know. So they crossed every hurdle to get there, and it really paid off. So, what did it feel like when they won the challenge? I mean, you can speak for them, you can also speak for yourself.
I think it was surreal. That's the first emotion I could say. I couldn't believe it.
I can
It was a
imagine.
virtual celebration.
Oh,
So it was like a red carpet event, and it was more 3D, should I put it that way? I don't know. It was something like augmented reality because it made us feel like we were entering a room
like VR.
with red carpet. Yeah, and it didn't seem real yet.
Hmm.
When the whole thing unfolded and they were like drum roll and the winner is and all of that stuff, I actually dropped my phone when I heard our team name because I couldn't believe it.
Oh, wow.
Um, so although we had that goal in mind, we knew that it's a huge prize pot and everything. Somewhere we were lost in the way we were working. We just
Hmm.
wanted the product to be complete, it to be presentable. But when we actually reached the stage of the finals and we won the prize, it just felt really, really worth it. I mean, all those hardships that the team took, all those late night calls that they kind of collaborated in,
Hmm.
it it paid off, I thought. So, and that's what the team
Yeah.
also felt at the end of the day. It was all worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, their commitment is definitely something to applaud there because it
Absolutely.
can be a lot to take on something like that. And I think, commitment is just definitely something I think is a byproduct about caring about what you're working on.
Yes.
I know we mentioned at first, like at the very beginning of this interview, how like finding something personal is very important. And you'll know your problem and you know your solution better than anyone. And I think this is specifically shows why, because, when the problem matters to you, you're gonna care about it, and then you're
True.
gonna you're gonna start building something that you want to build and you will invest in. And I think that that's probably very important.
Yes, absolutely. Commitment is very key. Passion is key to, getting to the place that you want to be in.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the process. From their very beginning, the premature stages of their idea to, I mean, at the very end when they had a product that won the competition. How did you develop the idea and, when it was just a thought, like how did you envision it becoming real?
Well, the whole part about product development is we need to understand that it's very iterative in nature.
Yeah.
It's not that, I dream about something and it just happens. You need to go over the idea multiple times in your head with others uh, to kind of shape up what you want of it. So I think the first step to any problem solving is to identify gaps in the current system. So you
Yeah.
have to identify the problem. That's the first thing. So there is some current system in place. What works, what doesn't
Hmm.
work. Trying to find the gaps in that working system is very key. That's when you're able to scope what you think should be the problem that you want to consider in the
Mm,
very first place. And this happens, as I mentioned to you, in a very iterative process. It takes a few days, sometimes a couple of weeks to establish what you're trying to solve.
wow.
So once you've understood the gap and once you've identified what the problem that you're solving, you need to also understand who your stakeholders are, who are the people who will be benefited from this particular development or product. So you identify your stakeholders. Stakeholders could be anybody who's interested in that particular solution. So once you've identified that, doing a lot of research in the background as to what the existing other solutions are to the similar problem, trying to find what is it that you think will work of those existing solutions is also a part of that iterative cycle of analysis, maybe, should I say. And then once you've understood it well, you've researched your problem well, you could benefit from prototyping, which
Hmm.
is a way in which you can visualize the solution to your problem.
Yeah.
So, and you can always, as an iterative cycle or as a part of the iterative cycle, you can improve your prototype, take feedback from your stakeholders to see whether things are going in the right way, how things can improve, and ultimately get to the goal of saying, okay, this is what I want to develop, or this is what
Hmm.
I want to create, and this is what my solution is going to be.
Yeah.
And then look at people who will be helping you create that and making it reality. So
Yeah.
that could be a software solution, that could be a design aspect of it. It could be anything. I mean, there are different aspects to a product. I'm sure you will agree with that. It's
Hmm.
not just the software, it's not just the hardware, or
Yeah.
it's different aspects. So they all come together after that. So I think, yeah, it's a very iterative cycle which spirals in as you develop and create the solution to problems.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's definitely a lot of different things that are like everywhere that eventually come back together. So it's definitely a very tedious and like grand process that like
Yes.
it can be intimidating to start with that.
Absolutely. But breaking it down helps
Hmm.
because you're not looking at the entire solution as one piece. It comes in smaller packages, smaller
Yeah.
packets, and then you solve those sub problems and then put them together. And that's again an aspect of divide and conquer. So
Right.
you're
Yeah.
breaking it down and then you're putting it together
Yeah.
after after you've solved it.
And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned us the stakeholder because I think especially because this can be very intimidating to start, your stakeholder is your whole foundation of your
Yes.
product, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can do all the research that you want, you can map out an entire idea, but really if there's nobody there who's actually going to use it, I mean, what's the point of what you're
Point of
building,
view.
right?
Yeah, you're right.
And so once you've done all of that groundwork, you've found your stakeholder, you've looked at the problem, you've started designing, you're like you're ready to take it to the next stage. I mean, like you mentioned, that'll be prototyping for some like different kinds of prototyping, right? Testing and modeling, visualization,
Yes.
right? But really here, this interview is geared towards people who are not yet at that stage and they just
Mm-hmm.
have their idea.
Mm-hmm.
So with my final question here, to close it off on a good note, um, the girls that you coached, they proved that young people can compete and they can win at the highest level, in things like entrepreneurship and innovation. So, what do you have to say as their mentor to a teenager who thinks they're too young or they're too inexperienced to have, a real idea that's worth pursuing?
As I've mentioned before as well, I think it's passion, teamwork, communication,
Yeah.
flexibility. These are probably the four keywords that if you
Hmm.
really bring it to life, you will achieve what you've set out to do. And it is something that is so important that you own what you do. You're accountable for what you do.
Yes.
Okay. And it's only when you own it will you really care about it. And that's, I think, what's the key to any success of developing projects like this, because this can be very long drawn as a process of from inception to, to getting the final product ready. So it's a lot of patience. And in this whole process, there is communication that is involved with the other team members, and you should be ready for it. You should be flexible, have an open mind to take on new ideas, develop those new ideas, and still keep um, the core value of passion to create that project intact. So I think it's a bit of all passion, the teamwork, the communication, and the flexibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I feel should be probably your pillars to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really reassuring to hear because I know, like me, a lot of people are going to start doubting their capabilities because, it's kind of foreign or unknown, this whole idea of branching out into the new. And I mean, I think really what I'm trying to say here is like, you're not too young.
Yeah.
You're never too young. I mean, the girls that you coached were in high school and they were also navigating a pandemic and they were still able to build something that was able to help a lot of people.
Yes,
And
absolutely. I mean, in fact, the money that we won,
Mhm.
we've put it into kind of developing the product further.
Oh,
So
wow.
although, they were teenagers and they were getting into university in maybe a year or so after that, it was it happened slowly, but ultimately they did use some of the money to develop their product a little bit more. And
Hmm.
some other money they put it back into developing the school facilities so that many young innovators can have that platform to create their stuff too. So create their solution to different problems. So yeah.
That's really amazing. I think that's really cool how they were able to reinvest it back into their community as well to give back and to allow other young minds to also experience that.
That's true.
Miss Rao, thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot that you were able to do this interview. I know it's pretty late for you in the UK right now.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine, Sunidhi. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for understanding my experience.
Of course. And one last thing to everyone watching, if you took one thing away from this interview right now, let it be that the idea that you have in your head is definitely worth pursuing. You should just find your problem, talk to the person who has that problem, find out more, and take your very first step. And AB Innovation Lab is going to be here to support you through this whole entrepreneurship process. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.